morning, ladies and gentlefolk. How are we all doing? Sam here, live on United People's TV, and the madness has settled down a little bit. We still don't have Ralf Rangnick properly in as our manager, though, so maybe it's not completely settled. But in this live stream this morning, I'm going to run through all the latest updates on exactly what is going on with Ralf Rangnick and when. When's he having that PCR test? What about the self-isolation period? Will he be in charge against Arsenal? What will happen if that doesn't go through? I'm speaking about all of that. And also, surprising to me, I'm going to be speaking to you this morning about transfers. I didn't think I'd be having this conversation anywhere near this early, but Paul Hurst from The Times came up with quite a detailed article yesterday on everything that's going on with Ralf Rangnick and his coaching setup. We're going to be speaking about Lars Kornetka and what's going on there, about Carrick, Phelan, Martin Pert, McKenna, everything. I'm going to bring you bang up to date this morning on everything that's going on with Ralf Rangnick. I'll say off the bat, I'm personally going to be surprised if Ralf Rangnick is ready in time for Thursday, because, you know, even if he went into that squad today, he'd still only have like 24, 48 hours to implement an entirely new system. It kind of sounds a bit unreasonable. I always said this was a bit of a problem that Manchester United were going to have because we decided not to sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer during the international break. We decided not to give ourselves that sort of 2-week period to, you know, allow a manager to come in and implement a new system. Instead, we're left with 2-3 days between games. It's going to be difficult. I'm going to bring you all the latest news on that, though. But let's dive straight into this one. As always, throughout the entire stream, you know what to do. Let me know what you think in the comments with your opinions, your questions. I'll try and answer as many things as I possibly can. Like Sashi, watching all the way from Japan. Good morning to you, my friend. We've got Princess Fatima watching from Nigeria. Good morning to both of you, and good morning to everybody around the world. Let's dive in, though, and let's talk about Rangnick. Look, you know how I think you've seen in the streams that I've been doing this week. I've been rather excited, I think is a fair way to describe it. Yeah, absolutely buzzing that Manchester United, in my opinion, have got literally the best man we could have got for the job right now. And he's got a massive job on his hands. And when it comes to the gegenpressing system, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do as well. I'm working through my ideas. I've got plenty more videos coming this week. We've obviously got Arsenal on Thursday. So tomorrow we're going to have to do a sort of starting 11. Rangnick starting 11. I mean, you'd have to think he would have even more influence on it than maybe he did the Chelsea game. I want to do a video detailing what his pressing system is. What are the foundations of it? The training. We spoke about the countdown clock already. 8 seconds to win the ball back. If you're in possession, that means you need to create a goal scoring chance within 10 seconds. I want to do a video on that because I think it's really important all of us get our heads around it, because it's a complicated thing. It really is complicated. But one of the best things I would say about Ralf Rangnick is you know what he's going to do, and you can just go and research it. You can research exactly what he's done before and what he's going to try and bring to Manchester United. That's what makes it exciting. There's no real question marks about it in terms of what he's going to do. The question marks surround him about whether he's going to be able to do it with this Manchester United squad and with this Manchester United midfield. And let's get straight into the news here. I said that 2 minutes ago and I'm still talking. Whoops. Anyway, let's talk about it. Let's go into this article from Paul Hurst from The Times. As I said, I didn't expect to be speaking about transfers this early, but then lo and behold, Paul Hurst came up with this article. So he's one of the journalists that I trust. That's why I'm bringing it up and we're talking about it. Manchester United, Ralf Rangnick targets 33 million midfielder Amadou HAIDARA to implement his pressing style. The German is also looking for an assistant as he is confirmed as interim manager until the end of the season. What I'm going to do now, as I said, don't say I don't treat you well. I've gone through the article. I've highlighted all the key points, and I'm just going to run through it now with you. So you don't need to subscribe to The Times. No, I'll do that for you. Anyway, Ralf Rangnick has finally been confirmed as United's new manager and has immediately set about bringing in an energetic midfielder and an assistant to implement his pressing style. So the two key components there for Rangnick, and I completely agree with it. He's going to have an on-the-pitch general that he trusts. Maybe someone that he's used inside one of his systems before. And that's probably why Haidara's name's come up. He needs a general he can trust on the pitch, and also a general, a lieutenant that he can trust in case, he goes away, he's got to do something. He's got that lieutenant on the training ground that knows his system inside out and will continue to push that system. As he won't be able to trust Michael Carrick for that. He won't be able to trust Mike Phelan for that, or Kieran McKenna for that. They're schooled in different styles. What he needs to be successful for sure at Manchester United is an assistant that he can trust. Now, we all thought that was going to be Lars Kornetka. I was going to speak about this later on, but we may as well speak about this right now. The news came out yesterday that Lokomotiv Moscow have made him the head of sports development. He has, instead of following Ralf Rangnick to Manchester United, which maybe a lot of people thought he would, instead he's going to replace Ralf Rangnick at Lokomotiv Moscow. So good luck to Lars Kornetka. But for a lot of United fans, that was a man that we saw who could come into the club and, as I said, and work underneath and alongside Ralf Rangnick and sort of be the guy that we need alongside him. But it's not going to be him. What's your reaction to that? I'm, I suppose, a little bit surprised that he hasn't wanted to follow Ralf Rangnick, but maybe it's the fact that he's looking at it going, right, I'm in a really good position here out in Lokomotiv Moscow. Ralf, I know I've worked with him for 6 months, but then what happens when he moves upstairs? He might have a job after 6 months, but where does that leave me? And I think that's going to be a bit of a struggle here that Ralf is going to have inside getting this assistant. I'm sure there will be someone, right? And I'm looking forward to seeing who that is. And when I know who that person is, I'm going to do a sort of a video looking at the background and the history of that person and why we should or shouldn't get excited about them. But it's not going to be Lars Kornetka. So that assistant manager that he wants to help assist in implementing his pressing style, it's not going to be Lars Kornetka. Interesting, that one. Gary, you're saying, I don't know, has never heard much about him. I've not heard too much about it, but obviously I know he worked under Ralf at Leipzig. He worked under Nagelsmann at Leipzig, and he worked under Guardiola as an analyst at Bayern Munich. But it's not going to be him. So if it's not going to be him, let's see who else it could be. Mo is saying Lars could still do the video analyst remotely. Maybe, but that's going to be a sort of conflict of interest, really, considering he's now just been made the head of sports development at Lokomotiv Moscow. I think he might be busy. United want Rangnick to take charge of the team for Thursday's home game against Arsenal, but that is dependent on him being granted a work permit and returning a negative PCR test. Now, as it stands here on Tuesday morning, we've heard nothing about his visa. Now, is it a visa or a work permit? So that means he can come into England, but he can't work, so he can't physically go to the training ground until he's got that work permit? Or is it to do with the visa in terms of arriving into, I don't know what's happened after Brexit. I mean, he's in Germany, so I'm sure he could just jump on a plane. But the negative PCR test, that's not something we should really have to worry about at all. I think you, as it explains in the article here, you can get one. You can get the more expensive one, so you get a result within 2 hours. So that's not an issue. But if it's not possible with Ralf, Michael Carrick will remain in charge for the Arsenal game, and Rangnick's first match in charge will come 3 days later when United play Crystal Palace. Now, in my opinion here, I think Carrick's going to be in charge against Arsenal. I think Rangnick will have a massive influence on the team selection, and he'll give some key ideas. But in my opinion, I think we saw the elements of those key ideas against Chelsea. I thought Gary Neville overstepped the mark in saying that Rangnick, I think he probably chose that starting 11. There's no way he was ever going to choose the starting 11. That was silly. But there's no way, in my opinion, that he didn't influence Carrick's thought process and thinking, right, okay, so we've got a new manager coming in a few days' time. He's going to want to implement a pressing style. I think we've got to start looking towards it. Now, he played Bruno as a false nine. That's never happened before. Took Ronaldo off. Didn't start him. That's never happened before in the Premier League. As I said, the team itself was a nod towards Ralf Rangnick, even if he didn't actually give any instructions. He just sat there in Germany, having a Paulana, watching the game, not doing much. But the team was definitely influenced by it. And I think it'll be the same against Arsenal. It'll be a lot more influence. It'll be far more vocal, Rangnick actually speaking to Carrick, speaking to the coaching staff, and maybe having an idea on selection. But he hasn't trained with these players yet. He hasn't been to the training ground. He's watched plenty of training footage. So I imagine he's not going to come in cold. He's going to come in knowing how training is going, what people have been doing in training. But you won't be able to tell as much as you could with your own eyes. So that'll be interesting to see how he gets on this week, because it's, as I said, this was definitely my biggest fear about the new manager coming in. It's the how quick games turning around. We've got Arsenal in 2 days' time, 4 days after Chelsea, and then 3 days after that we've got Crystal Palace, and then 3 days after that, luckily, we've got a Champions League dead rubber against Young Boys, and that's hugely beneficial. So big up to Michael Carrick for making that happen, because it's a game now where I think Ralf can just concentrate for a full week of just like, there's no real pressure on winning this game. There's more pressure on you being able to implement my system. So even if it doesn't go right for Manchester United against Young Boys, it's not going to be the end of the world. I know people will try and say, oh my God, Rangnick's come in and he's lost against Young Boys. It's all going wrong. But I think it gives him the opportunity to really hone in on the system rather than thinking about the opposition and how Young Boys might threaten us X, Y, Z. It's a dead rubber game. And I think that will help Rangnick, especially because of the delays with the visas, the delays with everything that's gone on. I think the club wanted to announce Rangnick over the weekend, so it would have been like on Saturday or Sunday, but everything got delayed. And now, I don't think he's going to be in charge against Arsenal. That's what my Spidey senses are telling me. That's just my gut instinct. Might be wrong. But let's go down to the headline story from today's video. And that's all about this man here, Amadou HAIDARA. Manchester United are willing to give Ralf Rangnick money to strengthen the squad in the January transfer window. The Times understands that Amadou HAIDARA, the RB Leipzig defensive midfielder, is one of the options that Rangnick is considering. Rangnick took HAIDARA, who is 23, from Red Bull Salzburg to Leipzig in December 2018 when he was a manager of the club, and he is said to have a £33 million release clause in his contract. What's your reaction to that in the comments? I think my first question about that is, what do you think about Manchester United giving Rangnick money in the transfer window in January, given the fact that he's only going to be our interim manager for 6 months? I personally think it's fine, and I'll explain why. Because Rangnick is coming in on a 6-month interim contract, yes, but he's going into a consultancy role that comes up after that, and he's going to be heavily involved in whoever comes in next. So it's in the same way as when he left Leipzig. He got Leipzig promoted, and then Hasenhüttl came in and took over as manager whilst he went up into an upstairs role at Leipzig. And Hasenhüttl was a manager who had a very similar style to him, very aggressive press. And I think they ended up winning like undefeated in the first 13 games in the Bundesliga that season. I think they finished second that season, having just been promoted, I think, anyway. So he brought a manager in who could just continue the work that he had already done with Leipzig. And that's what he'll do with our manager. If we head a little bit further up in the article in the Times, it's exactly what he says here. Rangnick is not expected to be among the candidates for the long-term position, which will be filled at the end of the season. And the three names here are the three names that we know we're going to be speaking about all year. That's Pochettino, Ten Hag, and Rodgers. It seems very clear that Manchester United will be going for one of those three managers at the end of the season. And it's nice to have that sort of clarity, right? In my opinion, anyway, because we can really look ahead towards the planning. Pochettino, I'm going to have a little bit of a discussion. David Ornstein said something about Pochettino. We all know about Ten Hag, and we all know what I think about Ten Hag. And Brendan Rodgers, out of those three, he's the ugly sister. There's no offense to Brendan Rodgers, but he is. In comparison to those three managers who are available, who would be the best one for United? I'll probably say Brendan Rodgers would be third on my list. But let me go down here and see what you're thinking about HAIDARA. He scored for Leipzig versus United. Yeah, I'm going to be looking. I'll do a full story on HAIDARA, look into him in a bit more detail. We'll have a look at his sort of heat maps from SofaScore, see what sort of midfielder he is, and also some quotes from him in 2019, because he loves United. Let's have a look. 33 million release clause is fine. It has to be done. I prefer Shield to HAIDARA personally. Oh, yeah, very nice. Getting that sweet, sweet Marvel reference in there. He'll need to offload someone, i.e. Lingard. Obviously, Paul Pogba, we don't know what's going on with him in January. Reports a few days ago actually said that Paul Pogba won't be signing a pre-contract agreement with anybody else outside of the Premier League. So Pogba might be staying at the end of the season. And maybe I was wrong about Pogba, eh? I didn't even consider Pogba in my sort of 11 that I looked at with Ralf Rangnick and how he'd set Manchester United up. And maybe I was wrong about Pogba. And I'll explain that in a little bit when I look into some stats from The Athletic. But if we look at, got a comment here from Alan saying, is Amadou a CDM? If we have a quick look at his stats and his heat map, he does play. Look, he's just a central midfielder all across it. DM, central midfield, and attacking midfield. If you were to look at his heat map from the Bundesliga this season so far, he's more of a right-sided central midfielder, but he's got a heat map which is everywhere. He really is a midfielder who moves around, and that's exactly what Ralf Rangnick will need. And if you were to look at the system This was the 11 that I took a look at when I said, how will Ralf Rangnick set Manchester United up? And I laid it down there, and I put Van der Beek and Fred in as a midfield too, because I know full well that pressing game from Fred is going to make him such an important player under Rangnick, and I think Van der Beek would suit it as well. So in that sense, Amadou HAIDARA would probably go in straight there for Van der Beek or for Fred inside that midfield duo there. Not someone who really, let's be honest, needs to be a pure and out like not a Wilfred Ndidi. It's not like, and again, this is more to a nod in terms of what we were looking at really under Solskjaer in terms of the central midfielders. We weren't properly looking, were we, for a out and out defensive midfielder like Ndidi. The names that we were linked with, like Neves, and I can't remember the other ones we were linked with. That was a painful summer, wasn't it? But there were lots of midfielders like that who were more central midfielders, could play it all around rather than purely a defensive midfielder. And I would say Amadou HAIDARA, for me, falls into that category as well. Not an out and out defensive midfielder, but somebody who could certainly come in and massively improve our midfield options. And as you can see from the Times article, if we scroll back up here to the top, this is exactly what he's looking for. He's looking for, Rangnick is looking to immediately set about bringing in an energetic midfielder and an assistant to implement his pressing style. So what he wants there is that midfielder who's going to do it on the pitch. And what he wants is the assistant that's going to help him teach the players how to do it on the training ground. And right now, he doesn't feel like he has either of those. And I don't think he does. Gungshi, how you doing, buddy? Nice to see you all the way from Taiwan, as always. Hi, Sam. If Rangnick performs really well, do you think there's any chance he'll continue as manager beyond the end of the season? We all saw what happened with Ole when he was our interim coach. So, Gungshi, if we head up a little bit earlier in this Times article there, this is the latest come from Paul Hurst. Rangnick is not expected to be among the candidates for the long-term position, which will be filled at the end of the season. So everything that we're seeing right now is no, that's not the case. But I think I've spoken to you about this before. I just don't think you can rule it out. I think even if we can logically rule it out now, that Rangnick shouldn't be considered for the long-term role. We've already got the 6-month interim. We've got him on a 2-year consultancy. The plan's there. But results can change everything. Of course they can. I don't personally think, though, if I'm being honest, that Rangnick wants that. I don't think he wants that. This is his first management role since 2019. He's been upstairs in different sorts of positions in clubs since then. And he's come back out into management for Manchester United on a 6-month basis with the intention to move into a consultancy role. Because, man, that's an amazing job for him. Amazing job for Rangnick at this point in his career. He's done incredible building jobs at Salzburg, at Leipzig, at Hoffenheim, and he's built a career of doing that. And now he's being given the opportunity to do it with one of the biggest clubs in the world. He could go down as an absolute great, an absolute legend at Manchester United for being that man who properly steered the ship, who took the reins away from Ed Woodward, who took the powers away from the Glazers and Woodward in terms of the footballing decisions and actually steered our club in the right direction. Because we need modernising massively. And for someone like Rangnick, who is so experienced in that sort of field, he must be dead excited about the idea that he can do it at Manchester United. And he's just got 6 months to implement that pressing style, implement that system, force that system onto Manchester United so that whoever comes in next, whether that's Poch or Ten Hag or Rodgers, and you can see the similarities between them already in terms of Rangnick's style that he's going to come in. Poch plays an aggressive, intensive press. Ten Hag plays an aggressive, intensive press. And Leicester do at times as well. There's continuity you can see between all three of those. Let's go back to the article and let's finish this one off before we move on quickly. What are the highlight points that I highlight? Yeah, so I'm not surprised that Manchester United will give him money in January, as I said, because I think he's got a plan in his head so that whoever comes in next, that these players that he signs will all suit that manager anyway. So when we need a defensive midfielder, and we've needed a defensive midfielder, and it is the big sticking point inside this system. It really is. But it's not defensive midfielder as such, but someone like Naby Keita, someone like Fabinho, someone like Fernandinho. We just don't have that player, right? That player who's got bundles of energy, he's a bit like Fred, but can actually play ball too. Fred's a great disruptor, but geez, that chip against Chelsea is going to haunt my memories for a while, I'll tell you that. Going down here, speaking about the staff that he's going to be bringing in. Rangnick will bring in a small number of staff and he intends to employ an assistant who is capable of helping the players transition from Solskjaer's style to his own. Yeah, it's not a job he's going to be able to do on his own. The job's too big. The job's too big, and the pressures are too intense immediately for Rangnick to simply be able to come in and not only teach the players about the pressing style, but teach all our coaching staff how to coach it as well. That's too hard. That's too hard to do. That's what the assistant will basically do. Rangnick will be the man who teaches the players, and his assistant will probably come in and really help double down and really focus on teaching the coaches. Because if you can get them on board quickly enough and get them to learn how to do it and how to teach it, then it will make the job easier. Now, of course, we all know the frustrations that we've all had towards Manchester United's coaching staff. You know what I think about Mike Phelan? Think old dog, can't teach new tricks, should be moved on. Apparently not. And whether you or I agree with it or not, I can understand if the club wants to keep Kieran McKenna there and Michael Carrick there, and I'd understand if Rangnick would want to work with them as well. They're young coaches. They can be molded in the way that he wants them to be molded in, and they will listen to him. He's got so much experience, and they will have so much respect for him. So I can understand if he wants to work with both of those, in my opinion. As I said, even if you would disagree with it or not. Carrick, who has taken charge of the United first team for the last 2 matches, will be part of his coaching staff. So Carrick, Carrick will be there. And this bit here, this is the bit that will annoy people. United want Mike Phelan, Kieran McKenna, Richard Hartis, and Martin Pert, who were also coaches under Solskjaer, to remain in their posts and work with the German. What's your opinion on that? I'm surprised if all of them stay. That's probably like too many cooks spoil the broth, and it's loads of crap chefs. It's like McDonald's chefs. No, actually no. You can fuck up flipping a burger. So some of them are good, but that's what it's. Mike Phelan, Kieran McKenna, Richard Hartis, Martin Pert. I think if Rangnick had his own, I think an issue here is probably the fact that he hasn't been in management for a couple of years. He's been moved upstairs for a couple of years. He stepped away from that. So he doesn't have a coaching setup right now that he can go, boom, let's just bring all these in. He kind of have to assemble his own Avengers, really, and the people that he wants to bring in. And Lars Cornetker, unfortunately, by the looks of it, he's the only real name we've had linked with us. Let me know in the comments. Maybe there's maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've been missing the names. But I haven't seen anybody mentioned anywhere near as much as Lars Cornetker. And I said it to you yesterday. I said, at this moment in time, it's only speculation that he's going to be coming to Manchester United. Lo and behold, the next day, Lokomotiv Moscow announced that he's the new head of sports development. So he's not coming. But it's going to have to be someone else. And what you're saying, good morning, buddy. Carrick will find it a very different prospect under Rangnick. I think it will be a case of shut the fuck up and sit down, boys. If I want your opinion, I'll ask for it. It's exactly what it will be. And that's how they will learn. There's certain teachers in life, you don't constantly ask questions to. You just sit there and you listen to them because they are extremely experienced in their field. They know what they're talking about, and you know that you can learn if you just listen. That's not necessarily what you want from all your coaching staff. As I said, it's going to end. I don't want it to be a case of Rangnick walks in and then you got McKenna, Carrick, and Mike Phelan sitting on the ground cross-legged with clipboards in their hand, pens at the ready to listen to the teacher. How is that going to take Manchester United forward? That's kind of what it will be straight away. And that's why he needs the assistant in alongside him. So he's got a little mini version of himself to say, right, whilst I'm going to deal with the players, you deal with the coaches. He needs another version of himself in that training ground to be able to do it on the scale that he needs to do it and in the time frame. It's got to be quick, man. It's got to be quick. But at this moment in time, we don't know who that person is going to be. Let me go down here and see what you're saying in the comments. We need to move on from the past, says Justin. Yeah, we do. I won't disagree with that whatsoever. We do need to, as I said, Mike Phelan, I can't understand. I cannot, other than the fact that he's just been given a new contract and United don't want to pay out for that. That's the only reason I would probably say he's going to be there. We should bring back Garner and Laird. Garner, is he on Notts Forest? I think he's online at Notts Forest. Laird, I could definitely see us bringing it back, by the way. Jonathan, how you doing, buddy? He's 63 and can't do everything. When the new manager comes in the summer, he will bring his own staff. Yep, he will, Jonathan. I think that's probably why Lars Cornetker's not come in. And I think it might be why we do actually struggle to get the assistants in for Rangnick. I'm sure he's got his influence and I'm sure he'll get somebody that he trusts. But I don't think it's going to be his first choice because I do think that was Lars Kornetka. But back to Amadou HAIDARA. One more thing I want to quickly show you before we move on. He would love to play for United. If we go up here, this is a quote from 2019. Amadou HAIDARA, my dream club is Manchester United. I will fight with all my strength to one day play for that club. Well, my friend, today's the day. Today is, well, no, not today, not physically today, but, you know, January the 4th, that's your day, boy. That's your day. But look, HAIDARA, he's previously said it. Would he be a good signing? I'm going to do a full story look at it. I'm just bringing you the reports this morning from the Times. As I said, I didn't really expect to be speaking about them that early, but lo and behold, I am. What do you reckon about the new lava lamp? That's from Orr. Look at that. What a man. And the Christmas decorations, I'm going to try and get them up tonight for tomorrow, because tomorrow's the 1st of December. We're going to have to do some mega giveaways here on United People's TV. I'm going to have to start planning. Woo! Christmas is coming, baby. Christmas is coming. But look. Right, okay. So we're talking about Amadou HAIDARA. We're talking about the assistant manager. We're talking about Rangnick's pressing style. How is he going to put that into Manchester United? What I'm going to do now is run through an article from The Athletic that's published this morning saying Rangnick's Manchester United. I was actually going to do a video on this, so I still probably will, actually. Who could be the winners and the losers? I'm probably going to look through Manchester United's squad and just compile 2 lists of players that I think have the opportunity to shine under Ralf Rangnick and players who are under threat under Ralf Rangnick, in the way that I think that Mike Phelan and Martin Pert, their jobs are probably under threat. That's what James Ducker from the Telegraph reported. Who's at threat in the squad? Let's have a quick look. And there's some nice stats in here. There's some nice graphs and some nice figures that sort of highlight the problems that he's got at the club. Because look, I ran through this yesterday. Let me pull these stats up one more time. I did a video yesterday looking at Ralf Rangnick's plan, didn't I? I was sort of highlighting, you know, what is he going to be doing? What's the challenges that he faces? And there was one graphic that we pulled up, and it highlighted just how difficult his job is going to be at Manchester United in implementing this straight away. And that's this. Having a look at his the pressing stats of Leipzig under Rangnick compared to Manchester United this season, they are simply completely and utterly polar opposite. And that's what he's got to come in. As I said, it's not like taking a team who is the third best pressing team in the Premier League and trying to make them the first best. It's like taking one of the worst pressing teams and making them the best. That's tough. That's tough. Or that's a terrible comment. I'm going to have to read it out, though. Sam, do a giveaway every day of December. All I want for Christmas is you. I would be a terrible present. For real, I'd be a terrible present. Maybe I will. But, geez, I don't know. I should have probably thought about it a bit earlier. But I was a bit distracted because, you know what? We were getting Ralf Rangnick in. But I'll think of something today. I'll come up with a plan, and we'll have to do it tomorrow. As I said, the Christmas tree will be up tomorrow, though, so don't say I don't treat you well. But let's go and look at this article from The Athletic. As I said, Rangnick's Manchester United. Who could be the winners and the losers? And as I said, I want to take a look at a couple of graphs inside here, which really are quite interesting. This is an interesting one to start with. Rangnick managed the youngest squad in the Bundesliga in 2018-19. So he does like working with youth teams, young players, and bringing them through. And again, I'm going to do a separate video on that. I want to do more research into it first, but it's a big part of Manchester United, right? Bringing through the youth players, bringing through the academy players, bringing through the younger players, and building a future based on those. So I want to take a look at the players that he's sort of brought through at Hoffenheim, at Salzburg, at Leipzig, and see how he could apply that to Manchester United and maybe those players who should be excited about coming through. But yeah, younger squad there. That wasn't the one I wanted to look at anyway. I wanted to scroll down here. Where is it? Blah, blah, blah. Here. This is a really interesting one. Let me explain it to you. So this is a graph here. On the top right, it's got teams which have high press intensity and they have a lot of counter-attacks. On the left, you've got high press intensity, but teams that don't really counter-attack. On the bottom left, you've got teams who don't really press and they don't really counter-attack. And on the right, you've got teams who don't really press, but they hit on the counter-attack. And look where Manchester United are. We are we are nearly slap goddamn bang in the middle. We don't really do much of anything. There's not one thing that we do any more than another. And that's what's made us, that highlights just how much of a lack of identity that we've got at Manchester United. Sorry. We don't really know what we're doing. There's not something that we're famous for. And that's, again, this is going to make it very, very difficult for Ralf to come in and implement that style, man. To implement that style. The question here from Justin saying, Sam, when will we see the tribute video for Ole? Justin, if you head over to Aditya Red's YouTube channel, that's already out. That was published at the weekend. Managed to get a collab done with Aditya. Big up to Aditya, by the way. What a bloke. His United videos absolutely always been the best. And it was just, yeah, I wrote a short poem for Solskjaer. If you want to watch it, I can't leave the link in the description because I don't have it up. But just type Aditya Reds into YouTube and it will be on there, my friend. Let's head back over here. So as I said, look, yeah, the fact that Man United are there, look, if you look top right, Liverpool are a team that have a high press intensity and they have a lot of counter attacks. So do Leeds, so do Chelsea. Looking at the bottom left, you've got Burnley, Newcastle, low press intensity, not that many counter attacks. And United are just, well, we're kind of nothing. We're kind of nothing. Comments there from DJG saying, which players do you think can and can't press at United? I think well, that's an easier thing for me to do, my friend, is to show you this. And this is why maybe I was slightly wrong about a certain player. Because look, which United players have pressed most often this season? And I don't think anybody's going to be surprised at who's top of that list. And by some margin as well. No one plays like Fred plays. Whether you like Fred or not, trust me, that guy is going to become a very, very important player at Manchester United. Like Jordan Henderson was never the sexiest player in that Liverpool team, but he played a role which enabled others to be successful. It's exactly what Fred will hopefully become for Ralf Rangnick's Manchester United and whoever comes in next. He presses a hell of a lot, but look who's second on that list. And I've been slating him, man. I'm so surprised to see Paul Pogba ahead of Bruno Fernandes. I mean, really? I mean, Bruno Fernandes kind of just... No, I've just found out that's got to be a lie, isn't it? Pogba's above Bruno Fernandes and Jadon Sancho. I don't know what they define a pressure as. Which United players have pressed most of the season? Pressures per 90 for Manchester United players with 270 minutes. I don't know. I don't know there, but apparently Paul Pogba is second in the pressures ahead of Bruno Fernandes and Jadon Sancho. Now, that really caught me out by surprise, right? And I basically ruled him out. I said, look, there's no real place for Pogba inside that Rangnick system. Maybe I was wrong, okay? And maybe, yeah, it's the fact that he's played less games. He's had a couple of games where I don't know, but that sort of took me by surprise. But if you're looking at players that are going to be successful, yeah, up there, Fred will definitely be a success. Bruno Fernandes will be a success. And I hope that Bruno Fernandes can sort of get a little bit more structure to his press rather than the chaos of him running around and then pointing at Rashford saying, why aren't you pressing? And then running somewhere else and saying, why aren't you pressing? I think it would be, I want to see Bruno get a little bit more control to his press. Right? Mount saying, I don't get the hate with Paul Pogba. I think you do. I think you do. I think you understand why Manchester United fans are really frustrated with Paul Pogba. And he gets extra scrutiny because of the quality of the player that he is. We've seen the levels. And we know that Paul Pogba is by far and away the best central midfielder we've got at our club. We just don't see it as often as we want to. And that's why I think the scrutiny is extra on his shoulders. He's a World Cup winner. He is an absolute master of the midfield position when he wants to. And that's the issue. And as you're saying, it's probably because of his first 4 games of the season. Maybe not. Sorry, John, coughing over everyone. I'll put my mask on. Pogba played as a winger. Look, yeah, cool. People, I wouldn't say that people don't hate on Pogba for no reason, man. People don't hate on it. People hate on everybody for different reasons. Does Paul Pogba get over scrutinized? Yes, he does. I would say that's in the same way that Harry Maguire gets over scrutinized because he's our captain. Paul Pogba gets over scrutinized because of the quality of the player that he is by comparison to others. You just don't let, it's just because they know how good he can be. They don't, I don't know. Maybe some people do have, well, I know some people have agendas and narratives against Paul Pogba. I don't. I try and judge every player the exact same. Or you're saying there's a difference between pressing and running around like a headless chicken. Ralf will bring purpose to that. Yeah, exactly that. That's what I'm saying. Bruno Fernandes great at looking like, I don't know, it looks like a game year. It's like year 9 playing year 10 at lunchtime, and then someone who really wants to impress just legs it around for 90 minutes. That's kind of what it looks like with Bruno Fernandes and his pressing. DJ, you're saying we need a player in the mold of a young Rooney. Well, I'll tell you what, everybody could do with a young Wayne Rooney. Jonathan, what are you saying? All professional players, if coached correctly, should be able to press. The question is how successful they can be. You know, it's very difficult to play that aggressive, intensive press is exhausting. I mean, I wouldn't know because I've never done it, and I would just throw up within 10 minutes. But yeah, that's why, as I said before, that's why, for example, Jurgen Klopp's team burned out, I think, in the first season, and that's a big issue here, right? I would expect Manchester United definitely in this. We're going to get some injuries, man, and that's a bit of a fear of mine, is the injuries that we're going to get, because people are going to start putting up with their hamstrings, putting up with their groins, those sort of muscular injuries that are going to be just from overexertion, because they're going to be using a completely different style of system. They're going to be playing an intensity. I don't know. It's just like, yeah, it's like running at like 10 kilometers an hour consistently, cool, but then someone else comes in and now all of a sudden you got to run at 15, and it's going to be just that much more difficult, that much faster and harder and more intense, and the players won't be ready for it. A lot of those players have just been enjoying the comfort of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's life at Manchester United, and Rangnick's going to come in and tear that up, and that is going to be a good one. That's really going to be a good one. But yeah, I was surprised to see Paul Pogba second on that list. Maybe I've been unfair on him, but we'll see. I still don't personally see a future for him at Manchester United, though. If I'm being honest, I think that ship has now sailed. That's that article done on The Athletic. Anybody else got any questions I haven't answered or haven't looked at so far in the stream? You let me know. And if you would, please consider subscribing to United People's TV. It's free. I'd love you to have you on board. Support the channel however you can. Drop a like on the video. As I said, share it around. Why not? But to quickly have a quick summary, the main headline for today is all about looking ahead towards January. I didn't think that we'd be talking about it that soon, but it comes from Paul Hurst from the Times saying that Rangnick is targeting Amadou HAIDARA to implement his pressing style inside that football team. Because obviously he's going to, as I said before, he's going to need that assistant to work alongside him to help make sure that everyone in training is being coached properly. And he'll want someone on the pitch that he knows that plays inside that pressing system, that he won't have to teach. He won't have to teach Amadou HAIDARA how to play that pressing system. Amadou HAIDARA would teach others how to play in that system. So it's like a little mini version of him on the pitch. That's what he needs. That's what apparently he's looking at when he's going to be signing him. But yeah, that's the main story from today. Then we took a quick look at HAIDARA's sort of heat maps, or how he plays. He's not really a typical defensive midfielder. He can operate pretty much everywhere. And he's more towards, I would say, a central midfielder, kind of the similar ilk that Manchester United were actually looking at in terms of like a Ruben Neves type player, for example. And the guy loves Manchester United. He wants to join Manchester United. We took a quick look at how maybe he could set up inside the system. We spoke about this, and this is such a key problem, and this is the scale of the job that he's got. And then we spoke about Lars Kornetka. He's gone away. And then we move on here to this. I found this quite interesting. So this is from David Ornstein, right? It's from David Ornstein speaking on the Athletics podcast yesterday. Now, this is more, I would say, of an opinion from David Ornstein than it is a bit of news that we can take away from it. But look, this is quite interesting. If Rangnick is deeply involved in the consultancy role, somebody has said to me that is bad news for Pochettino. Not because Rangnick might not like him, but because Rangnick will reach to the best possible candidate in the world of European football. And that might not be the obvious names that everybody is talking about. There may be other coaches that he prefers over other touted candidates. So what Ornstein is saying there is that, you know, right now, as it stands, Pochettino is and has been Man United's top choice for the job in the long term. What Ornstein is suggesting there is saying it depends how much power he is given inside that consultancy role to maybe as to whether he would take Manchester United away from that. He would take Manchester United towards maybe a candidate that no one is really talking about. Which you know, Pochettino, Rodgers, and Ten Hag, they're the three names on the list. They're the three names that we all think are on the list. And as I said earlier in the video, it's nice to have some sort of clarity about what might be coming next at Manchester United. But maybe I got it wrong. Maybe Rangnick will be looking elsewhere for a curveball. Don't know who that could be, but it's just something worth considering. Because, yeah, if Rangnick really is going to be given sort of autonomy in that consultancy role, he won't be able to choose the new manager on his own. The club will have to agree to him. But it depends how much power he's got in sort of influencing that decision and who he wants to bring in. Let me go up here. DJ saying, as a manager, Rangnick usually loses his first games. Well, let's see what goes on. It strikes me as his first game is going to be Crystal Palace on Saturday rather than Arsenal on Thursday. I just don't know whether he's got enough time now to come in. Abby, what are you saying here, sir? Martial would be nowhere near the list, maybe top if seen from the bottom. Laziest player, in my opinion, needs to be shown the door in January. Big up Sam for the excellent videos. Thank you very much, Abby. Martial, I think, will definitely be sold in the summer. We all knew that this was a season, make or break season, they called it, for Martial. I went overboard. I did regret doing the video, actually, if I'm honest. I went overboard saying that Martial's done at Manchester United. I won't go that hard on a player again. Just thought it was a bit unfair. But yeah, I just don't. I think Martial. I think the time is right for Manchester United to sell Martial, move on, bring Erling Haaland in, and win everything. Fred, do you think Haidara is being lined up for the captaincy? Now, I think I've said this before. I said this yesterday, and I personally think that he's going to come. Rangnick's going to come in, and he's not going to take the captaincy away from Harry Maguire. I just think it might be he might do, right? That's just my opinion, that if he does that and he comes in, he immediately puts himself and Maguire not on a level playing field. Maguire's immediately going to think about him differently. I think what he's going to come in and do, and I think it's the right thing to do, give everybody a clean slate. Everybody inside that club now has a clean slate. No matter what happened under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, no matter about the form that players were in, it's all irrelevant, completely irrelevant under a new manager. And now everyone's got a clean slate. Everyone's got a week or 2 weeks to prove themselves, and they're going to have to prove themselves fast. So maybe you're going to see a completely new and rejuvenated Harry Maguire. Maybe you're going to see a completely new and rejuvenated Luke Shaw. I don't think he should come into the. I don't think he will come into the club with any sort of preconceptions about individuals. He'll want to make his own mind up, not the mind of what happened under a previous manager. And that's what I think will happen. So that's why I personally think that Maguire won't get the captaincy taken away from him. Well, you kind of know what I think about Maguire as a captain. I don't think it was a bit weird that he got it in the first place, like only a few months after coming to United, and he's not really shown himself as a captain on the pitch in any way, shape, or form, really. Jason, where's the Christmas tree? Well, it's the 30th of November, mate. Come on. Rules are rules. I'm going to try and get it up later on tonight. So it looks like I'm going to be, I don't know, decorating all tonight. Let's see. Maddie with a very strange comment, but I'm going to pull it up here. Kind of greedy by Sam, just mentioning the messages that give him money. Guess he's starting to get too big now, so maybe time to stop watching this channel. Maddie, you can walk out the door, my friend, if that is really what you think. Mark is saying so many games to watch over a short period, very difficult to evaluate everyone. It's crazy, Mark. What we've got now, December's always crazy, right? It's always a mad period for Manchester United. It's a mad period for anyone. It's the festive rush, they call it. But to do it with a new manager in, with a game every 3 days, is chaos. To do it with a new manager in, with a game every 3 days, in a new system, of the scale of the differences between the system of Solskjaer and Rangnick are severe. It's going to be crazy. I don't know how we're going to cope with it. As I said, I expect injuries. Martin, you're saying, Sam, you say no preconceptions, but Ralf said Shaw isn't all that. Ralf said Shaw isn't all that back in 2020, early 2020, I think, before Shaw's real resurgence in form and the Euros. So, as I said, he said stuff previously, cool. But I don't think it rules anything out, although he did say that Jadon Sancho was one of the best players in Europe. So, can't wait to see that. Let's see what else we've got going up down here. Maguire needs a sports psychologist fast. I reckon he needs to go back to Greece and have a quick holiday. That's what he needs. I reckon he'll come back really sharp after that, or arrested, one of the two. Arsenal now biggest game of the season, says Jonathan. Cannot afford to lose this game, and ideally needs 3 points. Look, I don't know. I think it's a bit. I think it'd be unfair to say it's the biggest game of the season so far, but I mean, for him it is, because it'll be the first game of the season. Arsenal are a team in form as well, eh? It's mad how sort of things have moved around a lot. Joshua, Sam, the only YouTube channel I got my chat read out loud without being a member. Big up to you, Josh, but you should join as a member. No giveaways today, says Mike. I know. What is this? Samta? Jeez. I'm basically a Grinch now. I'm basically a Grinch. But look, I'll wrap this one up for today so we don't take up too much of your time this lovely Tuesday morning. But as I said, the main story is about Amadou HAIDARA. I won't do a video today. There's too many more important talking points about Rangnick, about the gegenpressing system, about the winners and losers inside the squad. I'll take a look at that a little bit further down the line as we get closer towards January. But HAIDARA, according to Paul Hurst in the Times, he is a man that Rangnick wants, that United are giving him the green light to sign to implement his pressing system inside the midfield. And he still needs the assistant. That's not going to be Lars Kornetka, who's staying on at Lokomotiv Moscow as their head of sports development. He's basically replaced Ralf Rangnick instead of following Ralf Rangnick. As it stands, Rangnick's not going to be in charge against Arsenal. That's just as it stands. It's Tuesday. I'm sure things can change. We'll know probably by the end of the day, because I think if it gets to tonight and Rangnick still, doesn't have his visa and doesn't have everything in place, you can't surely expect him to then come in and manage on Thursday. I think regardless of that, he'll probably be in the crowd at Old Trafford. That'll be decent. But look, thank you very much for all joining in this morning. I'm sorry to all the people who left comments that weren't super chats, because I don't read out anything. I don't read out anything that doesn't pay me anything. Obviously, you know that. But look, thank you all very much for joining in. The rush has sort of calmed down a little bit, but that was a hell of a week or two with Rangnick. We called it early. That was exciting. I'm buzzing about it. I don't think he'll be in charge for Arsenal, but I think we're going to, if we saw the early implementation of the Rangnick direction against Chelsea, we'll see it against Arsenal as well, probably in a bit more intensity as well. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining in this morning. I'll bring it all. If there's more news that's breaking later today on the coaching staff, on whether Rangnick's going to be in, you know where to come here on United People's TV. Make sure you drop a like on the video and subscribe. And have a good day. And up the Rangnick Reds. Go on, boys.